And so I believe that Jesus was definitely the greatest example of faith. And number one is you can trust God even when you can't trust those closest to you. I can tell you, you can have the most faithful person in the world, the people that love you the most, but there's going to be some times that even those people closest to you are going to hurt you. So trust God, even when you can't trust those that are closest to you. Second of all, you better learn to put your faith in God, not man. 1 Corinthians 2:5 says that your faith should not stand in the wisdom of man, but in the power of God. There's a lot of bitter people out there, and they're bitter because their faith was in man. They're bitter because maybe a mate betrayed them, a mother left them, a father left them, somebody on the job stole or embezzled from them, and they're still bitter and they won't let it go. And your faith was in that person instead of God. Let it go today. God never intended your faith to be in another person, not even your mate, not your boss, not your pastor. I've had mentors that have committed all kinds of things, and that my faith was not in them. I love them, I still love them, but my faith was not in them. So your faith to be in God, amen? Not any person, not any job, nothing but God. And if you don't do that, you'll become very fragile in your life. Third, God can take what looks like the worst and most unfair acts and conditions in the world and still turn them around to something good. Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and then he went to the cross, looked like the most unfair suffering that ever took place. And I hear people sometimes, they say, well, it's just so unfair. We look at it at an earthly perspective. God can take the things that look like the most unfair things in the world, like he did Jesus Christ. He turned it into the greatest act that was ever happened. It's our way of salvation. Jesus never sinned, yet died one of the worst and unfair death, and God still turned it around. We sin. We deserve really what we get. I hear people say all the time, we just don't deserve that. We don't deserve it. Yeah, you do. But yet God still loves us so much, he turns it around for our good. That's why we have to hold on to Romans 8:28, that we know that all things work together for good for those that love God and called according to his purpose. He didn't say we understand. He didn't even say we had to like it. He said, but we've got to believe it. Amen? And in spite of what others think, and in spite of what you think, despite of what might look like what's going on in the world today, God is ultimately in control. When Judas was about to betray Jesus with a kiss, can you imagine being so close to Jesus Christ, you kiss him on the cheek and you go to hell? That the other disciples thought they were going to defend him. He said, hey, don't do that. He said, don't you realize, in Matthew 26:16, don't you realize I could ask my Father for thousands of angels to protect us, and they'd send them instantly. Every instant in your life, God's in control. He was in control when they took him and put him in the cross. In fact, they really didn't take him. He gave himself to them. God's in control. He's in control of what's going on in the world today, though it looks like it's out of control. God's still in control. So you can just relax today. I don't know what's going on in your life. I don't know what you're going through. God's still in control.